I think it's going to be interesting to see how we view the Lakers' playoff run. Because before the Portland series, there was a bit of like, could the Blazers pull this off? And Dame missed whatever games he missed. But, I mean, do any of us really believe that that could have been a thing? Then in the next round, there was conversation of, well, could Houston be the team to beat the Lakers because of how difficult Houston can be defensively, or to defend, I should say, and all that. And no, figure you double team Harden, you close out to shooters really hard, you play one big guy, and AD just can do whatever you ask him to do defensively, and then you also have AD who can do whatever you ask him to do on offense, on top of the Rockets just not having the rim protection to deal with LeBron going to the basket. That was pretty much the series. That was a 5-game series, and I feel like there could be this thing of, well, you know, was Houston really that much of a challenge for the Lakers? I do think that's going to happen. And then the Nuggets team, who we praise the hell out of for beating the Clippers, run into a team that does not have the chemistry problems of the Clippers, also has 2 stars who are better than the 2 stars for the Clippers, and so the Nuggets, they lose the series, right? Are we going to now do the whole spiel of, well, were the Nuggets really a challenge for the Lakers? I feel like it's coming. I feel like if you search hard enough on Twitter or wherever else, I do think you're going to find some like the Lakers were not really challenged, and some people could try to devalue this accomplishment for them. They made the adjustments. You go with 1 big against the Rockets, make yourselves faster and all that, you double Harden. Against the Nuggets, they go back to 2 bigs a lot of the time, and it's Dwight on Jokic, and it's LeBron defending Jamal Murray in the 4th quarter of Game 4, I believe it was. And for a lot of this postseason, Jamal Murray has looked like one of the best players in the NBA. The Lakers' versatility has been really, really impressive. Should also be said, LeBron and AD, they pretty much just never have bad games. I mean, the closest thing you could look to is when he doesn't grab rebounds as much. If we're talking about AD, I mean, LeBron has had a couple of games in these playoffs where his point total wasn't super high, but it's like it was already a blowout by the 3rd quarter, so they didn't really need him to score like that, you know? But then when they have needed LeBron to score, he's been able to do it. There was a game in this series, I think, where he went off in the first half. He had a pretty big game against the Blazers at a certain point. I'm pretty sure he had 1 or 2 of these games against the Rockets. It's tough to remember it all, even if it happened like a week ago, because these playoffs are just flying by. I guess that's another thing to talk about too, just the bubble. I think the bubble makes it more difficult. I mean, there's not as much travel. There's no travel. That should definitely be stated. But I feel like the mental exhaustion that you would get from playing every other day and being confined to this space for however many days in a row at this point, I don't really know if I would be able to handle it well. So, yeah. Is there anything to talk about with LeBron's legacy or whatever? I mean, I already have him above MJ. I've had it for a couple of years now, so for me it's like whatever. But I imagine another finals win could sway some people. I've never really dove into why I think LeBron's better than MJ. This is the most basic take of all time, because I think this argument is bloated and toxic to the point where it's dumb. But I just think LeBron's better at basketball than Michael Jordan. There you go. I know, crazy take. If you want the more nuanced take, I think it's the combination of being impossible to stop going to the basket on top of reading the game at a Chris Paul, Magic Johnson, Steve Nash level. I just think that pushes you over anybody. But for some people, you know, it might just come down to the rings argument, and you know what, fine. Anyway, if we look to the NBA Finals, I mean, this isn't going to be a full-blown prediction video. Obviously, that 20-minute video will be coming when we see who wins between the Heat and the Celtics. But, you know, if we look at it for Miami's sake, they're up 3-2. It's fair to pick them first. I think Bam matched up on AD is interesting. I think Bam switched onto LeBron sometimes is interesting. We've certainly seen Bam have success against the Celtics guys when he switched onto him. I think LeBron would be able to get by Bam in ways that Kemba or Jalen or Tatum or have not been able to. But even then, I don't think we're going to see Bam on LeBron all the time. I think it'd be more so Bam on AD, which is kind of interesting. But even then, I think you could find ways to get Bam off of AD. But also, I think sometimes AD could just score on Bam anyway. But I do give Bam a chance to slow AD down sometimes in the post. He is not on Anthony Davis. So it's going to be interesting to see if it ends up being Miami, how they can defend both LeBron and AD. I mean, I think Miami's zone defense, would that work? There's no one on the Celtics who comes remotely close to the playmaker that LeBron is. And not just the playmaker, but just the reading of defenses and stuff. And if they run that same zone, you can just give it to Anthony Davis in the middle of the floor and, well, you have to cover him. And at that point, it's not really a zone anymore. But I do think we could see them bust out some sort of zones when AD is posting up. Houston did that sometimes. It's something I mentioned a few times on here. Like, you run that zone and it makes it tough to kick it out to some of the shooters, and then you ask the Lakers to cut, or at least I do. Even then, it sometimes doesn't matter because AD is so good, he just scores a bunch of times anyway, even if you force him into a tough mid-range or whatever. We saw that against the Rockets. I guess the other question would be if the Lakers would go with two bigs or one big against Miami. I do that for every single playoff series the Lakers play. It's my first question. Are they going to play two bigs? Are they going to play one big? It doesn't matter. They have LeBron and Anthony Davis. But that could be interesting. I mean, maybe Jimmy would just be the other guy on LeBron or AD, depending on where Bam was. But of course, there'd be a lot of switching and that type of stuff. If the Celtics end up coming back and meeting the Lakers, to be honest, I don't know what the game plan would totally be. Of course I wouldn't. I'm not the coach or anything. But I'm having a tough time thinking of what it would be besides just switch a whole bunch of stuff. No one has tried double-teaming LeBron for good reason. And I don't know if we would see it in the next round if it's Miami or the Celtics. One thing to say, I mean, the quote-unquote ideal team to defend LeBron would have been the Clippers, or just a team with a whole bunch of big, versatile defenders. The closest thing we would have seen to it was the Warriors for the 4 straight years we saw LeBron face them in the finals, and his numbers in those 4 series were incredible. So, yeah, there's Draymond, there's Clay, there's, for some of it, Bogut. Later on, they still had Looney and whoever else for their bigs, KD or Harrison Barnes, Andre Iguodala, Draymond, if I didn't mention Draymond. And LeBron was still amazing in each of those finals. So if those guys weren't going to be able to slow him down, I don't think Miami or the Celtics would be able to. And then there's still Anthony Davis. So yeah, if I haven't made it obvious, of course I'm going to pick the Lakers to win the finals against whoever they face. I mean, the Lakers have been my pick from the beginning of this whole thing. I did not predict them to get the 1 seed. I thought they would get like the 2 or the 3 because I just figured regular season LeBron, he's not going to go for it like that. So LeBron managed to prove even me wrong a little bit. And I'm usually singing the guy's praises left and right. So anyway, I don't know what the hell the point of this video was. Shout out to the Nuggets. They're going in the right direction. Probably do a video on the Nuggets tomorrow or something. But yeah, finals number 10 for LeBron.